Hello, this is Catherine Walker and Leslie Flores, and we are doing our instructional design models. I believe this is module 3 for trends and issues. We'll be looking at different instructional designs that we like. So I looked at 3 that I really enjoyed. I said, yep, that's me. I really enjoy Assure, the Dick and Carey ID models, and the ARC ID model. So Assure, this ID model is all about, it kind of comes towards a constructive approach. So the Assure model originally developed with an intention of helping teachers with utilizing technology and media within the classroom. And so it kind of incorporates the Robert Gagne's event of instruction to kind of ensure effective use of media and technology in instruction. And because of this, it kind of helps our teachers to answer those important questions as to why are we using technology in content delivery or course assessments? What technology works best for a course content? And how are we going to use the technology in enhancing a learner's experience? So it's really about helping the learner through their experience. A really great way of using this, I saw a really great example where it was like there was this online biology course, and it was all about enhancing the content. It wasn't about I guess, creating anything, but it was helping them to enhance their knowledge of something in particular. And so the instructor would like use the updates to meet new course objectives, and so to help them build upon their knowledge.
That's really cool. I like how the Assure has there the semester before, and it kind of outlines exactly what you should be doing as far as the timeline. So it kind of remind you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one I've realized that I love these ID models. I'm like, they really give me piece by piece of what I should be looking at, what exactly I should be doing. So the next one I really liked was the Dick and Carey model. And this one is kind of similar to KEMP. I don't know if anybody knows about KEMP, but it kind of focuses on like the interrelationship between elements in the design process. And so those elements are like your content, your context, your content, your learning and instruction. And so Dick and Carey, when they create this, they believe that the instructor, the learner, the materials, the instructional activities, the delivery system, and the learning all work together to produce desired outcomes. So you can kind of use this in 2 different levels as a general guideline that you can use this as a starting point for thinking about design rules. Because this model can like be used in various subject areas in schools, as well as like the business world, a strength to this model that I really liked is its flexibility. So you can really use it in different areas. And I really also like that, you know, how you always notice like the arrows and how they go back and forth, how everything kind of aligns together. So you have the option wherever you are to go back to another section within the model, especially in that revised piece, how it goes back to every piece. It's not just that one piece, like some of the ID models kind of represent. So
I really like how you mentioned how it kind of all interlaces together, because honestly, right now at this point, whether it's a pandemic, you know, we're moving to a more place where people want to kind of interact with each other to get that learning to go. Because back then, in that non-traditional type of learning was just the instructor kind of guiding the student and just giving them the information. So like you mentioned, this model kind of puts everyone in the same field as far as having the learner learn, having the teacher go, the content, and it kind of all helps each other. So that's a really good model.
Exactly. It's funny because I think our teacher in this class is the one that said we stopped doing Sage on the stage and more of like a teacher actually being a part of the instruction and like being near the students. And so I really liked this design. I kind of felt like it had an implementation of that as a part of it. So that was really nice to see.
A way of learning from now on.
Yeah.
They're shifting away from that old type of learning. So
yeah, absolutely. But I will say this next one, arts. This was probably my favorite one that I found. Attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. So Keller, who was the one who created this, suggested that the attention would be obtained either by like perceptual arousal or by inquiry arousal. So I really like this one because it involves like grasping the attention of the kids through like various surprises or like quizzes, activities, or modes. It focuses on allowing the students to like relate to the content, like and like being able to understand it based off of what they know. And then the confidence piece really emphasizes the idea of like instilling confidence within the learners so that they can be motivated to succeed. And so after, have you heard of ARCS? Because I had to like, I looked up ARCS. I was like, what's another one?
I did know about the other one that you just mentioned. So, but I kind of looked over some, but I just kind of went over kind of the YouTube videos that Dr. Crawford put out. And so I was kind of going off of those first, because I want to make sure that I understand correctly kind of like the foundation models that we have, and then start branching out to little by little all the other ones that are instruction models that we have.
Yeah. I mean, this is one that I think I was just like looking up different ID model YouTube videos from like some of the videos she had on there. And this one popped up and I was like, oh, this is really cool because it really gives the idea of like how modeling is included, how you're giving the students a choice, really giving them an idea of like graceful failures, helping them with like, how do I come back from difficulty and like have confidence in myself to continue going. And then looking at like positive outcomes, I just really like resonated with this one really well, especially with not just working with students, but also working with staff members, because I feel like a lot of this kind of goes into that and kind of boosting their support and their morale so that they go out to do what you ask of them to do, right? So that they can feel confident in their job role. So I really like that. It helps to, develop their self-growth. And then this is my instructional design model that I kind of created. It's a little whack, but it's okay. I'm going to go with it. So I kind of took something from each one that I found. I really liked the idea of analyzing the learner and the learner's needs prior to, and then going into the relevance of the objective. So why is this relevant to what is needed from our learner regardless of what role they're in, and then looking at the resources based on that. And I did put back and forth arrows for these because I felt like these are ones that you really can kind of go in between. If you find that, oh, I didn't realize that this resource was here, and this may connect with something from what I analyzed, I might need to reevaluate what is the relevance of the objective that I may have. So I really liked that. And then kind of going into looking at your methods and materials, where would I be using this? How would I be using it? What technology would I be using? Implementing it within the groups, making sure that it's going out to people you need, and then evaluating and revising it based off of that analysis. So like a summative analysis would be done, a formative analysis would be done, and just depending on where it's given, because a lot of times if I do a design model, I can either do it with kids or with adults. So when I think of like formative, I'm like, okay, these are going to be like fun quizzes that I'm going to do with them, but I don't necessarily give quizzes to adults because you don't want them to think they're back in school. So it's more, it's more going to be of like a summative. So like kind of grasping their idea of how they felt about it. So with that, I might give them like a feedback sheet, a survey, and say, what's the thing that you enjoyed about this? What's something that you wish you saw? What's a tip you may have? And then of course, bringing that back to analyzing the needs. So is this something that is going to work effectively and efficiently, or is it something I need to go back and say, what's the analysis of this and how can I make this better?
That's really awesome. I didn't think about the evaluate to the analyze again, to go back to kind of start all over again, to kind of get to see where you need to evaluate and where you need to kind of improve from there. But maybe it's not a bad idea to quiz adults too, so they see if they understand the content of the material. So not a bad idea.
All right, my dear, you're next.
Okay, so hi, my name is Leslie, and I will be talking about the two different instructional models that I saw that I really liked myself. And so one of the first ones that I really liked was the ADDIE model, just because I wanted to keep the foundation of like what the instructional models that we're going off of and what we're learning from. And so I just want to start from the very beginning as far as what does that model have that I can kind of go into to see how the other models are incorporated, since it kind of went off from there. And then one of the strengths that I really liked, it was very clear and effective, kind of was straight to the point as far as analyze, design, develop, and implement. And for me, I'm a person that likes to kind of stay like within the procedure, and I like to be very clear and effective of what we're doing. And so for me, this one was just kind of a way for me to identify how do I want to give the information to the learners. And when I was going off of this, I was reading that the Abby model, it's very flexible and it's easy modifiable. That's why the other ones came about from there. And now I'm like, okay, this is where I need to start off as my foundation. Because for me, I'm very big on starting from the ground up and thinking about, okay, where did we all start from? We all started at one point. This is where we can kind of branch off to go to there. And it's very clear and effective and straight to the point. There's times where kind of go, like I was looking at other models and there were kind of so many little graphs and arrows and pointing up and down. And for me, I'm very simple. I want to kind of see a more clear format. And that's why the two models that I selected are just very clear and straight. And that's how it kind of ends up with mine as well. When I was reviewing, the other one that I saw was the Hanafin and Peck design model. This one to me kind of feels more of what I'm into as far as design model, very straight, clear to the point. And just the three things that I feel like were very, very important as far as needs assessment, design, and then develop and implement. And for these, it was very, very important for me because in the very bottom of this module, between each phase, there was an evaluation and revision. And I'm all about feedback and how can I improve before going to the next one. So for me, instead of finding out where I can improve and evaluate at the very end, I would like to evaluate within the middle of each phase. And that way I know for sure that my first phase or my first needs assessment is kind of 100% done and I can move on to the next one for design. And then from there, I can move on to the third one instead of having to kind of present this whole model and then thinking like, you know what, this is not going to work. We actually need to go back and correct from step one when I can identify that already from the very beginning. And I like to work in steps. And that's why I really like this one because you're able to kind of reflect and evaluate in each phase. And that's very, very important for me because once at the very end, once I'm finished with whatever content or design, I want to know that I am completely done and I don't have to go all the way back again to see what's going on. So that was more of my way of thinking. I know everybody is a different learner. They learn in their own way.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very important as far as going off of this. But I kind of want to elaborate more in the Hanafin and Peck design model. For this one, I know that I was looking at some of the content and some of the places. And one of them I found was more of like with science and literature reviews for this one, where you're able to kind of see the analysis from there, kind of evaluate. And then when you go to the design, you're able to look at the content and all that stuff in the interface. But both of these models that I kind of picked are based off the questions that the videos that Dr. Crawford put. There was one of the gentlemen that was there, he asked three important questions. And I feel those three questions kind of like go into the instructional design models that I picked, which are going to be analysis, strategy, and evaluate. So the questions were, where are we going? How will we get there? And how will we know when we arrive? And that kind of goes into the three types of things that I want to see: analyze, strategy, and evaluate, to kind of make it straight, simple, to the point, very clear and effective, and I'm still able to evaluate each phase in the models that I have. And transitioning to my design, I kind of made it kind of a straight line as well too. With the arrows, I kind of want to, for me, I'm more of a type of person I want to see what do I need to do first as far as assessment, which is for me to say, where am I going? What do I need the learner to know? And from there, okay, once I kind of finalize that, I evaluate to see, okay, this is what the assessment needs. This is where I'm going to evaluate, and I'm going to go to develop. Okay, what is my plan of how I want to develop this instructional module or whatever I want the learner to do? Once I go from there, I get to evaluate what content I need to do, and then I go to the design. For me, I think the design is the most fun to do. I don't want to design something and I don't know where I want to kind of develop it as I go. For me, I want to first, let me see what I need to develop, and then the design. Design is like the very fun part. And then from there, I'm able to implement whatever I developed, design, and so as far as the assessments, into whatever I need. But I really liked how you incorporated yours to go back to the needs assessment to be able, that's why I have my evaluate in each one in the middle for me to be. But I think for me, one thing that I would definitely change is implement. I would go back to the needs assessment just to make sure everything's good. But if I do have to go back, I can go back to the very beginning.
So, yeah, absolutely. And it kind of opens up the possibility that, you know, you can always have this idea of how you want something to go. I know that happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm on a roll, I'm going, I've evaluated, I've got things going, and you get to the very end, and then you start talking to everybody, and you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, I didn't even think about that. And that's probably why a lot of the work I do is so collaborative, because I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm getting enough resources from everybody, like from enough concepts from everyone, making sure that I'm hitting with people that have their mastery in certain topics, especially because a lot of things I do are science-based, that I don't have to, at the very end be like, oh, snap, I didn't think about that. That I've made sure that I've implemented all of those things. And I really liked that you liked Addie, because I really like Addie too, because it's so foundational, because it's like that main one that you can kind of see all the other design models are kind of based off of. And it really helped me in kind of creating my own, because then I was able to say, okay, what's the base look like? What's the one that I really, really, really enjoy looking at and enjoy reading about? And how can I kind of form those things into my own design? So yeah, I really liked your explanation, and your explanation of why you like this, because I also like that it's very straightforward. Some of them were very elaborate, which they were pretty, but I need something that's more clean cut, not something that's going to give me a headache or make me feel like I'm ADHD as I'm looking at it. So, so I definitely.
For sure. I've extremely enjoyed doing this assignment because I was able to start learning the terminology needed for this field. Like Addie, I kept hearing that in the very beginning when I started. I'm like, what is Addie? And now that we're able to identify what Addie is, like we can go from there. And then one word I keep hearing also is sneeze, or SME, SMEs, which is subject matter experts, which
yes, subject matter experts. Yeah.
So I'm like super excited to be able to learn and be able to see, okay, this is where SMEs is going to go through, be my develop, because I'm able to talk to these subject matter experts. So
I was like, I want to be called a SME one day. I want to be a subject matter expert.
Yes, you'll be there.
I think we're finished. I think that's the end of our presentation today. So thank you very much. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.